It's amazing when you think about it. Marston created Wonder Woman so long ago, and we've only seen her on the screen so many times. These two women are the most classic. So, I went to see the movie. Let's give a spin at what I think. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing Wonder Woman. And wow, there is a lot to unpack. This was one hell of a movie, and I think is going to save the DCU. Not that I had any problem with the movies prior to this, but a lot of people did. Going forward, I can see a lot of connections for where this is going to go for Justice League, and of course, we've seen this character before, because she showed up for what's basically a super cameo in Batman v Superman, where she says a line that so pays off.
Bang, this creature seems to feed on energy.
This thing is from another world. My world.
I've killed things from other worlds before.
I'm a big fan of comic book movies. I love the DC comics especially, and I review all of them. So, if you'd like to hear my insane ramblings more, give a subscribe. And for now, in case you are just looking for an opinion piece, this I am rating a solid platinum. Check in the description below if you don't understand what that means. But it is by and far an awesome must-see movie. Before we go any farther, though, I have to throw this up. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. Going into this movie, I wasn't expecting the best movie ever. What I was hoping for was a kick-ass portrayal of a character that I followed in the comics for years. Now, to be fair, I have not always read her series. In fact, she's had quite a few hit-or-miss stories over the years, and as such, looking at the trailer, I always kept saying to myself, it looks really cool. What if they go with one of those weird runs? What if they go with something strange, and what's with the hood? I don't get it. But all of my fears were alleviated when the critics that I trusted started saying how good it was. And as much as you'll all know I'm not a big fan of Rotten Tomatoes, it did make me feel good that it was a good sign too. Going into this, I wasn't sure what to expect entirely, but what I got was the movie that I've been waiting for maybe my whole life. Strong, fierce, and independent, Gal Gadot totally steals the show. Now, there's a lot of characters in here and a lot of stuff for us to go into, but first and foremost, I have to say, this isn't just an ad for the new Justice League movie coming up. Although there are parts of the movie that make me really excited and hope that the Justice League movie does Diana half as well as this does. My hat's off to Patty Jenkins. She obviously gets the character, gets the concept. And let's face it, women superheroes haven't exactly had a stellar run over the years. They either get stuck on the side as a side character or end up being thrown under the bus. And more often than not, when we are happy to see them, it's in a supporting role, much like Wonder Woman did in Batman v Superman. So, to see her take to the big screen with someone who has an unproven track record as an actress totally scared me. But I went to the 7:30 showing, and now let's get into exactly how it did. I recently had a whole video where we talked about how many types of stories there are to tell, and let's be honest, with comic books there's even less. But this is very much the hero's journey, and it's Diana's hero's journey. But it's also very much a war story. In fact, that's exactly what it is. This is the superhero war movie. The war movie. And so let's talk about the setting. The mystical, magical Themyscira, the island of the Amazons, Paradise Island. But really, World War I and more so. And it would be so easy to just gloss over the horrors of the war. When I did my piece on why we tell war stories, I said war is hell, and that's why we tell these stories, to showcase that. And this movie did it in spades. Now, yeah, it wasn't as gory or as gruesome as it could have been, but at only one point did I think that actually was a flaw. The movie very realistically showed us just how bad and horrible the war is, and was, and the idea of another war is so evil. The contrast and juxtaposition between paradise and war, heaven and hell, was very startling. But on to the characters. On Themyscira, we're introduced to Antiope, who is by far the most powerful Amazon warrior. and her sister, the Queen Hippolyta, and the Queen's daughter, the only child on the island, who, of course, is Diana, Wonder Woman. We spend the better part of the first third of the movie there with the Amazons, so we get to know their society only a little, but in the time that we do have, we learn that they're all great warriors, and when the Germans actually show up on their shores, oh my god, do they kick ass! We get to watch them train, and then we get to see them actually put that training to good use. And I will say right now that there's some foreshadowing of a twist in there. But once she leaves Paradise Island, she meets Etta Candy, who is Steve's attaché, and by far her own kick-ass character in her own right. She's what they would call a modern liberated woman, talking about things like the right to vote. But all in all, she serves only as a side character. The character that we're introduced right alongside her, though, is one that almost immediately takes Diana and wants to help, and that is Sir Patrick. Now, Sir Patrick, almost immediately once he starts working with the team and obviously showing an affection for Diana, the people next to me thought, this must be Zeus/Odin, and I could see where they saw that coming. The idea that someone who would protect Diana. Then we have the villains. Dr. Poison is obviously Diana's counterpart, driven and powerful and slightly mad, but a mad scientist. Now, I will just say that mustard gas in and of itself is super evil. If you ever want to not be able to sleep for a night or want to puke, Google what mustard gas actually does. They made a more horrifying version, and you know what? That's the sort of war World War One was. Women, men like her, creating these monstrous weapons. And then our German field marshal, her commanding officer. You know what? Anyone who's watched a commercial knows this is Ares, right? I mean, this guy's going to have the climactic fight at the end with her, and obviously knows way too much, and he's pretty evil, right down to the core. Dr. Poison creates a mist for him to inhale that lets him get some portion of his energy back. And, I mean, just look at this guy standing there. You know he's going to look badass in the armor. But surprise! We'll talk about it more later, but Sir Patrick's really Ares. It plays well into the theme and symbolism of the whole movie. But now, who did I forget? Oh, I know what you're saying. All the heroes, right? Well, Wonder Woman is one of them, and Diana Prince is pretty badass. I really have to give a shout out here to Gal Gadot, because point blank, she can switch between doe-eyed innocence and world weary, like that. And she does it so well, because even when she's being the innocent, she's not being manipulated. At the end of the day, some of the best scenes were the ones where she just came right out and said things that made Steve go, huh, what? Yeah, I guess. Which brings us to Steve Trevor himself. Chris Pine also deserves a huge thumbs up here. He did it well. And I have to say, the two of them had some good chemistry on set, especially when he did the whole bumbling thing. But I have to appreciate the fact that they didn't just cast him to be the love interest. It would have been all too easy to make him the chick of the flick, and to a certain extent he was. But as he describes himself, he's a murderer, a smuggler, a thief, and a liar. And that's a pretty interesting thing, but then so are all of his compatriots. This picture from Batman v Superman is the picture taken in a small town at about halfway, maybe two-thirds of the way through the movie. It's right after we finally get to see the first badass Wonder Woman display. But all five of the people in this are heroes. The actor turned into a liar and into a bit of a thief. The spy soldier, the Native American tracker who might be a little typecast there, or the sniper with the heart of gold who doesn't want to take the shot. I mean, they all play this up so well as they retake the town that calls them heroes. And they each showcase to Diana that nobody's perfect. Everyone's fighting their own battle. Everyone is the hero when they choose to rise above what they become. And it's pretty awesome. So on to the plot. As for the order of the plot, it's a little convoluted. We have flashbacks within flashbacks, because the movie starts modern day with Diana doing her job and getting the picture back from Bruce. And then it flashes back all the way to her childhood, which is a great way to handle the exposition because she learns it with us. And at the same time, we then get to watch her grow up, train, and then meet Steve, who we then have flashbacks to how Steve got there. And then we get to the war, and we get to her being the god, and just trying to stop a war, the war to end all wars. Now, as I said above during the character part, there's an entire portion of the plot that's basically going behind enemy lines, and it requires a lot of thought process put into exactly how horrible World War One was, and the fact of what you could and couldn't get away with. And it turns the superhero genre on its ear a little, but we'll get to that. For now, let's switch this up to point of view. With a handful of exceptions, we follow the life and times of Diana Prince, Wonder Woman. We get a few scenes from Trevor and a couple from the bad guys, but that's about it. What about themes? I already touched on part of this, but it's war is hell, and that the reason we tell stories like this is because war is so horrible and the terrible things we do. But they turn it on its ear on this, because when Ares is finally revealed, he tells Diana, I'm not a god of war, I'm a god of truth. And there is a certain amount of truth in how hellish this is. And I kind of get how disillusioned she was in Batman v Superman. I didn't make them do this war. Killing me will do nothing. They'll just have another war. And we know, historically speaking, that we do. World War II is coming. And I can't even imagine the horror that brought to Diana. There was also the heroes that rise up in times of horror like that. And Steve Trevor really exemplified this. In fact, one of the things he says early in the movie is a great theme that goes throughout. My dad once told me, when something horrible is happening, you can either do something about it or do nothing. I tried doing nothing, so now I'm doing something. And throughout the movie, Diana comes to terms with this. In fact, that's a lot of her growth arc. Well, what about this? We could help this person. No, we're on a mission. We have to do this. We can't help everyone, but we can get this done. We can do this. And ironically enough, when she finally grows to the point where she goes, no, I can save these people, is that great trench scene that we've all seen in the commercial where she steps up and is first Wonder Woman. And I will say that scene is badass and is full of symbolism of truth as a weapon. And of course, anyone that knows Wonder Woman knows that she has a weapon of truth, the lasso of truth. And it had an interesting use. First, they use it to interrogate Steve, and I have to admit, that was a pretty awesome scene where he just yells out, I'm a spy, because he's been trying to hide it. But later, when he uses it to convince Diana that he's telling the truth, and he goes, this is a dumb idea, we're probably all going to die. The truth is a three-edged sword. A weapon that's hard to wield, because it cuts every which way. And it does by the end of the movie, because Ares himself uses the lasso of truth to show Diana the truth. The evil that is, the evil in men's heart. The fact that he doesn't create the war. He just needs to whisper weapon designs, and then let the people go where they may. In fact, he's trying to have an armistice, just long enough for them to create more weapons. But an armistice nonetheless. Ares, god of trying to come to a peace accord. Now, anyone that's ever seen a Zack Snyder movie knows that he loves slow motion. In fact, there's a going joke that if you took the slow motion and put it at full time, you'd have half a movie. Well, Patty Jenkins takes this concept, because she's never really done action like this, and puts it in just the perfect places. Not like him overusing it, but totally just pinpointing those scenes. The bullet time, when Diana is watching the bullets that will later foreshadow that she can block them because she can see them at super speed. Just so brilliantly done, so perfectly symbolic. This is where I normally do a good, the bad, and the ugly. But you know what? I have so little bad to say that I'm going to just do one. Remember how I said that it wasn't too much that we missed the gore? One scene we did. The scene where Wonder Woman is finally fighting who she thinks is Ares. Now, the big surprise, of course, is that the field marshal isn't Ares, but she doesn't know that at the time. She drives the sword through his chest, right where his heart and stomach and all the vital organs should be, and is surprised to learn that the war doesn't end. Now remember, Ares isn't actually causing the war, but this also isn't Ares. Steve Trevor comes in to find her and looks up to see the sword hanging there, shoved through the guy and then through the ceiling of the room he's in, and it's a perfectly clean sword. Now, I don't need gore, I don't need too much of this, but a little bit of blood could have gone a long way there. Just a few drops coming down the blade, I think, would have been both artistic and not hurt the rating. But I don't know, I don't work for Hollywood. So, that I'm going to list as the bad. But the good, I'm going to list a little differently. And it's at the absolute end of the movie, and, spoiler alert, there's no end credit scene. But they thank the Marston family. Their lifestyle was a little different, and I can't say is one that I'm happy with, but one that I don't care that happens in their own life. And I'm glad that the whole family got its recognition for the creation of this wonderful character. And then one final thing, the audience. Now, I know I don't normally talk about this, but the theater I go to see these movies on the Thursday night before they come out on Friday are very nice theaters, but not a lot of people go to them normally. I haven't been to a sold out theater for them in quite some time. This one was. But it's not just that it was sold out, but who it was sold out to. I saw women in cosplay, I saw little kids. Wonder Woman definitely was a hero for everyone. I have high hopes that this movie is going to break the $1 billion rule, but I'm not sure that it will. Either way, I was very happy, and I was ecstatic at the number of young girls walking around, clinging together fake bracers, and celebrating Wonder Woman for who she is. As for my platinum rating, as I came out of the theater, I was debating whether or not this would be a perfect mythical medal. And for a second, I thought it might be. But there were a few flaws in the movie, and I'm not going to say they weren't there. And one of the things that I hope is that this is the way DC movies are going to go going forward. And I'd really like Marvel to kind of darken up their movies a little bit. Because, like I said, this was a war movie. This was a war movie with a superhero in it. I'm going to compare it to Captain America Winter Soldier, my second favorite movie of the comic book variety so far, and the one that this might actually unseat. I'm not going to go there just quite yet. I want to let this sit in more than just watching it once, and I will go back and see it again as I did Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was a spy movie with a superhero in it. This was a war movie. And it was not just any war movie. It was a great war movie, even without a superhero. But now that I've rattled on for almost 20 minutes, I want to know what you think. Have you seen the movie yet? If you have, do you think it's as good as I like it? Or did you pick out problems that I missed? When I go back and re-see it, I'll see if I catch ones that I didn't this time. Do you think that it was a good expectation for the first female superhero movie of the modern day? Do you think that it was a good war movie? Do you think that truth being a weapon is an interesting concept? Maybe one I can do a video on. Well, either way, let me know all of your thoughts and comments below. And then, of course, like always, I need to ask you to hit that thumbs up button and like and share this video, and subscribe to my channel, because I'm trying to build a community. And specifically, I do look a lot at superhero stuff, but I look into others as well. And we talk geek stuff, and we talk about stories, books, movies, comic books, you name it. I review TV shows, and I do all of it to try to explore and find the heart of the stories we tell. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.